afternoon and thanks for joining us. I'm Judy Simpson. Locally grown food provides benefits all across our state. It's an economic boost to farmers, it provides healthy and diverse choices to consumers, and it keeps our working landscape working. As the local food system continues to grow, new economic opportunities are emerging. Rebecca Gollan tells us about developing a skilled workforce trained in getting quality Vermont food to the places and people who need it most.
It's a sunny fall day in Vermont, and at Valley Dream Farm in Cambridge, owners Joe and Ann Tisbert and their crew are harvesting potatoes.
Right now in the field we still have Brussels sprouts, kale, beets, and potatoes.
The Tisberts don't want their produce to go to waste, but like all farmers, they always have something left over.
Every farm has seconds. Every farm has that day, that week or couple week that something can't sell, and it makes no sense to just throw it all in compost.
And it's not just a little bit. Leftover food on farms is a big deal in Vermont.
Currently, we have more than 14 million pounds of wholesome vegetables and berries being left on farms every year.
Theresa Snow is the executive director of Salvation Farms, an organization that gathers and distributes some of that surplus. She says that there are a lot of reasons that farmers might wind up with excess food.
Most of this food exists for reasons outside of a farmer's control, from market demand to environmental realities that affect the quality, the cosmetic quality of the product, or because they lack available or affordable labor, or they don't have the proper infrastructure, or they have competing harvesting and marketing priorities.
Snow started Salvation Farms as a way to work with farmers around the state to bring some of those leftovers to the organizations and institutions that feed Vermonters every day.
We need to realize that there are more than 80,000 individuals that are considered food insecure in the state, and that we serve more than 19 million institutional meals every year in this state. And meanwhile, these institutions and charitable food sites invest more than $10 million every year on sourcing fresh food from out of state.
We distribute it to anywhere where low-income individuals or families access food for free, essentially. So that's food shelves, different soup kitchens, different senior meal sites and community meal sites that are preparing food for pretty much for free or for a very low cost.
Hannah Baxter is the gleaning coordinator for Healthy Roots. Healthy Roots is one of the organizations Salvation Farms works with around the state. Baxter works directly with farmers who are willing to donate the food they don't or can't sell. That can mean either picking up surplus from the farmer or gleaning, where Baxter brings volunteers to the farm to gather any viable produce left in the field after the farmer has harvested. Though Baxter never knows exactly what or how much of something she's going to get, it adds up in the long run.
We've probably done in the vicinity of 50,000 pounds over like a 7-year period.
Tisbert says that before they worked with gleaning organizations, extra food on the farm usually wound up as compost.
50.
When we lose food on farms, we lose a lot of investment that the farmer has made, and we lose a lot of resources. And so beyond just losing the nutritional value of the crop for human consumption, we lose all of the inputs from seeds, fossil fuel, water, human labor, solar power.
With organizations around the state now doing much of the hands-on work of collecting extra food from farms, Snow and Salvation Farms are working on another hurdle: distribution.
If we can actually capture this food, whether it is from the fields or from the wash kind of store pack houses of farmers, then we're going to need other efforts to move this food to people in the state.
Part of that effort is Salvation Farms' new Vermont Commodity Program. It's a workforce development program located in Winooski. Gleaned and donated food comes to the facility where program trainees get hands-on experience working with different crops.
But what we do is we aggregate these large volumes of surplus. We clean them, we assess quality, we case pack them, and then we make them available.
Participants also spend time learning about food safety and preparation.
You've really explained why washing the hands for a certain number of seconds and rubbing with soap makes an impact. How do you organize or at least interpret some records that are, for collection of data throughout processing? Why temperature is important? High temperature, low temperature, depends, So, right, it's basically how to understand that there are hazards there and trying to understand what are the most dangerous hazards.
Omar Yorzabal from UVM Extension helped set up the facility to comply with food handling standards and also provided safety training to participants. They'll come away from the program with a variety of certificates.
Through this, we're getting a number of certifications like ServSafe and OSHA and first aid and stuff, and that's really been really cool. So yeah, that was a part of the program, that reason I signed up for, and it helps build a resume.
The food packed here is donated to the charitable food system, including food shelves, Boys and Girls Clubs, and Meals on Wheels. For now, the program is set up to deal with hardier fall harvest crops, like squash, potatoes, and the apples they're packing this day. The hope is that the Vermont Commodity Program will eventually expand into handling more crops, as well as into some small-scale processing, all the while training new workers.
I was introduced to this program because I like food.
Program participants like Eric Putnam from Milton take a number of field trips to farms and food processors. And they get the chance to try out gleaning themselves.
We went and harvested apples from 2 apple orchards.
Was it surprising how much food was still left in the field when you went?
Yes, especially since I don't waste food. I like to eat all my food unless I absolutely can't.
Making that connection, talking to a farmer, just seeing the equipment, seeing the plants in the ground and be like, oh, that's what a carrot looks like. Huh, didn't know that. This is where a potato comes from. This is the work involved with getting it out of the ground and getting it into our facility. Oh, and there's a whole bunch of other work once you get it and clean it. And it's not always easy work. There's challenges to it. I don't expect all these folks to go into agriculture, but anyone who's a consumer and eats should really have some understanding of where their food comes from and be able to make good decisions.
We're getting a whole picture of everything involved from, really from the seed to the fruit to what happens then and where it can go and who it can help.
Gardam has worked in restaurants in the past, but wanted to expand his skills and learn more about the food industry. He heard about the program through the Department of Labor when looking for a new opportunity. He found that and more.
I've become more interested in something involved in agricultural, or even a nonprofit that works with saving food and or just presenting food, getting it to the people, and so I have become more interested in that, and it's broadened the horizons of what I think I can do in the future.
Giving participants the skills they need to be confident about entering the workforce is what it's all about at Salvation Farms.
Some of these participants, maybe most of them, are trying to get a second chance in life, retooling themselves, getting new training in order to be more competitive and eventually get into the market force.
It's a second chance for those that might need it, and a second chance for food that might have gone to compost, but with the help of the Vermont Commodity Program, is instead going to feed Vermonters. In Winooski, I'm Rebecca Gollin with Across the Fence.
Well, thank you, Rebecca. Joining me now is the Executive Director of Salvation Farms and the Vermont Commodity Program, Theresa Snow. And with Theresa is Natalie Bekkouche. Natalie is a trainee in the Commodities Program. Thanks so much for coming in. Theresa, how did you come up with the concept for Salvation Farms and for the Vermont Commodity Program?
Great. Well, First, thank you for having us
sure.
on today. Well, I was working at Pete's Green's organic farm in Craftsbury in 2004 and decided I wanted to engage my local community on the farm, collecting the surplus that he wasn't selling in a way to educate people about the value of local farms. And I was sensing at that time there was a great disconnect between our eaters and our local food system. And through the power of volunteer experiences, as well as the opportunity for people to receive local fresh foods through food access and meal programs, I thought both of those were great opportunities to reconnect people with an essential resource. We all have to eat,
right.
And there's a great value on our of our local farms. And the commodity program is really just an evolution of how we started. Gleaning is a great community organizing activity, but when you understand the scope of food that's available out there, that's still edible, that farms economically can't put into the marketplace, if we're going to start capturing a volume of food that's reflective of what's available on farms, we're going to need to move it into a system like an in-state commodity program for cleaning and quality assessing and also some minimal processing,
right.
So that we can really scale up. It's kind of that economies of scale and efficiency to move it into the charitable food system or also the kind of institutional meal programs.
Now, Natalie, how did you come to be involved with Salvation Farms?
I was a student at Sterling College in Craftsbury, and Theresa came in to work with one of our classes on a project involving the Vermont Gleaning Collective, and that was a great experience for me. And I ended up taking some time off from Sterling. I was going through some kind of personal challenges in my life, and I moved to Burlington, took advantage of some resources here, and it was through Folk Rehab that my caseworker mentioned this job opportunity or this training program at Salvation Farms. And I was immediately excited to see the name, and I just kind of tried to sign up right away and came in for an interview, and that was, yeah.
Good for you. Well, Theresa, what do you believe is the capacity of the Vermont Commodity Program?
Oh, I think the capacity is great. We have an incredible facility that we started leasing earlier this year. Coolers, loading dock. We've got a great pack room for handling produce. A lot of capacity hinges on funding, making sure that we can staff our programs so that we continue delivering high quality training to trainee participants, but also to be able to communicate to farmers this service that we can provide, as well as communicate to the kind of recipient agencies that this product is available. So right now we're handling between 50,000 to 100,000 pounds every couple of months.
Wow.
In each training cycle. We think that could significantly increase, again, if we have the staff capacity to run a real quality training program.
Now, Natalie, what do you believe is the most impactful thing about the work with Salvation Farm?
It's kind of interesting because as a sustainable food systems major at Sterling, I'm fascinated by and excited about the putting to use food that would not otherwise be used,
right.
and putting it back into the food system. But I've really been impacted by the social aspect of the program and what I've experienced with the other trainees, and how we've been able to kind of, people who wouldn't otherwise necessarily come together, we've been able to kind of bond over this common goal and mission, and really have kind of empathy for each other and grow at the same time together, and all learn about the food system when we wouldn't maybe otherwise have the opportunity to do so, and do it by also connecting with the food at the same time, those two things coming together.
Fantastic. Now, Theresa, I know you're still looking for more trainees. What should people do if they're interested?
Right, so they can visit our website. You'll offer the link, and go to the Get Involved page, and there's information. You can also just call our main office, and that's 802-888-4360. We're going to start our second cycle of training on January 9th.
Okay, terrific. Well, thank you both for coming in today.
Yeah, thank
Thank you so much.
That's our program for today. I'm Judy Simpson. We'll see you again next time on Across the Fence.